Hello and welcome to Nikon Report, your weekly roundup of all the latest Nikon news and all other photographic announcements that we found interesting. Konstantin here.
This is Becky.
Welcome to number 48. The last surprise of this year, surprisingly, Nikon announced 28-75 lens f2.8, which is really confusing. Why at the end of the year and why this focal range?
Yeah, we definitely didn't think we were going to have another announcement before Christmas. We were sort of more hoping that we were going to get some stock. But anyway.
And now we get a phone call and someone on another line says, well, I don't know how to describe it to you, but we have another announcement.
Yes, and this announcement was the 28-75 f2.8. Now, because it's not an S-line lens, and that means that it isn't classed as one of their superior lenses for the Z-line, saying that all non-S lenses have been pretty fantastic so far, haven't been disappointed with any of them. But it's an interesting choice on Nikon's part to not make it an S-line lens, and I wonder what the reason for that is.
And it's very confusing because 24-70 f4 lens, which is the standard kit lens that you can buy with your Z6 and Z7 Mark II cameras, is S lens.
Yes.
And this one is 2.8 and non-S. In my mind, the S lens is better than non-S lens, but then the non-S lens is 2.8. So very confusing. Let's get back to that, but let's run through all the specifications first. For some of you who haven't seen our videos from yesterday.
Our mini video of the announcement.
Exactly. We just want to record it real quick, get it out, get 1 billion views, and then move on to the podcast.
Just for those who just want crave the instant piece of information.
Absolutely. So take out your notes, Becky.
My Nikon notebook. Okay, so first up, it's a 15-element lens. Quite a lot going on in there.
That's a lot of elements.
Yeah, 15 elements in 12 groups as well. One of which is a super ED element, one of which is just normal ED, and then we've got 3 aspherical elements. I'm wondering if it's lacking certain coatings, which mean that it's not S-line. I'm not sure what differentiates
some
it.
nano coatings, maybe some fluoride coatings, etc., etc.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, they say it's dust and drip resistant, but doesn't mean that it's got its special coating.
It's such a vague line, isn't it? Because all weather resistance on all cameras and lenses from all manufacturers, it's such a great line. They say it's not waterproof. It's like it's weather resistant. What level it is, no one has any levels of weather resistance. So my question is again, is it better than, let's say, 24-70 2.8?
Yeah, that is going to be the ultimate question in terms of performance. It's really, really tricky. One thing that they have done, which they're doing consistently with the Z-line lenses now, is giving them a very close focusing distance. Yeah. So we've got 19 centimeters at the 28mm end. We've got 39 centimeters at the 75 end. Actually, one thing that we didn't mention in the announcement video was that it's a 0.34 times magnification.
Ooh, what does it mean, Becky?
No idea.
Exactly. So, but also what I like is, the focus breathing has been suspended again for video guys. This is quite useful. I can see the advantage of 2.8 lens over f4 for video work. You get the brighter image, you get slightly more shallow depth of field, and obviously paired up with a nice firmware upgraded Z cameras that will do really well. I assume that the zoom breathing as well should be fairly good. But again, because it's a non-S lens, I'm a little bit confused about that. Yeah,
it does include the lens hood. I made a special note of that.
That's really good.
HB93A.
All right. Okay. Well, it's included. That's good news. So it's also got 9 blade aperture, which is really good because that should give you a really nice smooth bokeh.
Absolutely. Now, the price in the UK is £949 or 1,049 euros in Europe. Here's what's tricky. The question is, who is this lens for ultimately? Because it's at that price point where it's only £150 cheaper than the 24-120 f4.
Exactly. And then 24-70 f4 price is $799. That's RRP, isn't it?
So it's £150 more than the 24-70 f4, but it's 2.8. But it's not an S-line lens. So it kind of leads us to think, okay, who is this aimed for? We have quite a lot of offerings in the mid-range.
Yeah, it's very congested. Okay, let's just talk about that. Yeah, so we got 24-50.
Yes, don't forget the little 24-50.
The little, almost, it's not a pancake, but kind of a pancake, a little muffin lens, I would say. So we got then 24-70 f4, 24-70 2.8, 24-120, and now 28-75.
Yes.
That is a lot of mid-range lenses. why?
Yeah. My only thought is that they're going to do a 75 to 300 f2.8 to non-S line or maybe an f4 to complement it somehow.
I agree with you, but at the same time, it's not exactly a budget choice as well. At £950 RP, it's not exactly a budget lens to go like 18 to 55 lens or something like this.
No, it's very true. I mean, quite frankly, we are confused by the announcement. We love the fact that Nikon are making more lens announcements. That's a very, very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we don't yet know where this fits into the lineup. I will be interested if we can actually get our hands on one to test out and actually do some benchmark testing against the 2470 f4, the 24-120 f4, which we still haven't really seen in the flesh except for to pick it up once. 24 to 50, which I've tried, which obviously is a completely different kettle of fish, much smaller, cheaper lens. And the 2470 f2.8, which is double the price. If we can just do some comparisons, that would be super helpful.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really grateful for Nikon because it obviously creates a nice backlog for us of things to do for our channel, which is nice.
No shortage.
Exactly. But from one point of view, it's not on the Nikon lineup, the one that they updated at the end of October with all the announcements. So it's not there. So that's one of the things. They obviously kept it really close to the chest because the first rumor that showed up on Monday, and it was published on Nokishita Twitter, where they say this is coming. So it wasn't known a couple of weeks or month before that. Very, very strange. And yes, I'm not 100% sure where this price set at because it is quite expensive lens. It's right in the middle of 24-70 f4 price and 24-120 price. Will it be bundled with the lens? I think it's just I think that's something that we will be looking at as a kind of a pro kit bundle.
Potentially. I wondered if they were going to replace out the 2470 f4 with this but pro kit bundle maybe makes more sense because it's a 2.8.
Yeah.
How much difference that's going to make in practical terms, I don't know. The 2470 f4 is a superb lens. It really is. So for a kit lens, it's a very strong offering on Nikon's part. So we shall see and time will tell.
Absolutely. One thing I'm thinking is that 2470 f4, when you buy it with a camera, you're paying about £500 instead of £800. So that means it's either it's selling at a loss, so it's basically a loss leader, but at the same time it gets you into the system, or there's amount of margin to be had there, and that's something that you can't really do with 24-2.8 S glass. So I think the 28 to 75 comes in the space where they can maybe discount it quite significantly as a bundle purchase, but then something you can't really do with 24-70 2.8 class. You see what I mean? So that could be that as well. But stay tuned. I'm sure that, Nikon gave us a lot to think about over Christmas period.
For sure.
Let's wait and see.
In light of new news about the 28 to 75 and a little more Nikon news that we thought we better add to this week's Nikon Report, we're doing a Nikon Report extra from home, which will also be in the Nikon Report.
Inside the report. So it's extra, but it's inside the report. But the news are developing so fast that we really had to look and do some investigative journalism. Now, what happened was the rumors came out about 2875, and Nikon rumors mentioned that it's potentially a Tamron lens. Nothing else was mentioned. So I decided to have a look at it. So this morning, we already recorded our announcement video. So that's out in the wild already. But I did a bit of a research really, and I found that lens. So it's 28-75 Tamron. It's generation 1 lens. It's not generation 2 because generation 2 has a different design. Now, generation 1 literally has 15 elements in 12 groups. So the same as Nikon lens. It weighs 540 grams with 550 grams, which I can say that if the lens uses Nikon casing, then the weight could be different. But then MFT charts or MTF charts, whatever you call them, they look pretty much identical on wide angle and longer end as well. The filter diameter is the same. And then actually, if you have a look at the lens design, so the groups of the lenses, the picture Tamron's image and the Nikon image looks pretty much the same. So that leads to the question, is it the Tamron lens or not? Obviously, there's no confirmation from Nikon on this one. We can only guess, and so far, those things match. If it's true or not, we don't know, but a lot of clues are pointing towards that. So how do you feel about it, Becky?
I have to say I'm a little, I don't know if disappointed is the word because that's almost too much, but I definitely hope it's not the case. However, as you say, all clues are pointing towards the fact that it may well be a rebranded Tamron lens. But looking at the positive side, does this mean that Nikon are going to be incorporating other brands' lens designs, or perhaps even will get Z-mount lenses in Sigma I'm not so excited about Tamron, but in Sigma specifically, I'd quite like ranges.
Yes, we thought the Sigma and Tamron lenses are coming. No, they're already here.
They just have the Nikon badge on them. No, so it asks a lot more questions than it answers. And it also makes me wonder even further why Nikon decided to bring out the 28-75 when they did. I don't understand this move. I'm intrigued to see where it goes and what happens with future releases, but hopefully they'll all be Nikon factory. I mean, here's the other thing. Because of some of the issues with factory space and one thing and another and transitioning from one factory to the other, I had an unofficial kind of conversation with someone from another brand who said that some of the Nikon lenses had been made by Nikon staff in their factory, not a Nikon factory. So, you know, maybe by rubbing shoulders with other brands and other companies and working closely with them, they've been influenced by this decision. Who knows? I
agree with you. But at the same time, we talked about why not let third parties to release their lenses. And now we have the third party effectively been releasing the lens, but it is in a Nikon casing with a Nikon name on it. So my question is, what was the decision behind it? Like how they decided why not to release, instead of Tamron lens, release a Nikon lens with it? Allegedly, if it's a Tamron lens, of course. But there's so many questions, and I really don't know what to think about it. So we probably going to monitor the situation, leave it for next week. Let the dust settle a little bit, because at the moment, I just want to scream.
Scream into the void.
Yeah. So instead of being the usual internet where we're going to just scream into the abyss and being all provocative, we're going to leave it for a week and see what happens.
Okay, good. All right.
Next up, we have a development announcement for a very long lens. It's Z800mm f6.3 S lens.
Yeah, so this is a VR, thankfully, super telephoto Z lens. Nikon says the Nikkor Z800mm f6.3 VRS is an S-line lens delivering powerful rendering with outstanding resolution while thoroughly reducing color bleeding. By adopting PF, that's phase Fresnel for those of you that don't know, for the first time in a Nikkor Z model, a compact and lightweight body is realized, making it highly portable despite being a super telephoto lens. With its high rendering performance and superb mobility, this lens will reliably support the image expression of many photographers, ranging from advanced amateurs to professionals. Now, they haven't given much more information. We don't have a price. We don't actually even have a weight. So we can't actually tell you any more than what the press release says. However, is there any more information I can give you?
Well, the gist of it is coming.
Yeah, so, okay. However, we don't have a release date either. We have no further information except for what we've just said.
What we know that 800mm is going to be an S lens, which you'd expect. It's f6.3. That's good to know the aperture as well. We have the picture of it, so we know how it looks. And we know that it's coming. So we now know that we have 400mm in developments that hopefully will come soon. And we also have 800mm, which is really good because we got 400, 800. I think the next one up probably would be something like 600, then 300, and then 500 at the end, because they're kind of trying to split it, isn't it? We got 400 in the middle at the moment, 800 on the very low end. So I think 600 would be the next one, don't you think?
Exactly. I think what they tend to do is try and please certain photographers. There aren't many photographers that would buy a 400 then immediately buy a 500.
Yeah.
But by having a 400 and 800 and releasing them sort of staggered like that, they will hopefully capture more photographers that way.
Fantastic. And then, Nikon also updated their lens roadmap. So that one is what they call expansion to 2023. So we're going to put it up on the screen. So have a look at that. So they've included 28-75 lens as well as 800mm lens.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it further on next week's podcast and pick it apart as we usually do.
Brilliant. Now back to the main show. All right, let's move to the main topic of the week that was supposed to be a headliner before the 28-75 announcement. It's all about shipping updates on Z9 and other equipment as well. So let's start with UK. Becky, do you have any updates for us?
I like how I'm the spokesperson for the UK. As far as we know, there will be allocations beginning to be worked out next week. Obviously, next week is Christmas week, which makes me think that we won't have any shipments leaving Europe before Christmas itself. And as I mentioned briefly on our live stream last week, I know for a fact that the European warehouse won't be open over Christmas. Christmas is kind of a big deal over there, and they generally shut a lot of things down. But I know for a fact that they will have closed the warehouse from Christmas Eve through to the New Year. So I don't see how we're going to get a delivery before Christmas, but I will be interested to know if we find out how many were being allocated in the first batch before Christmas.
They love their holidays in Europe, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just like us.
Exactly. Now, as for the USA...
All right, well, we still have 15th of December as per B&H and other RAMA listings for Z9 shipping. I'm not 100% sure. But by the time this podcast comes out, which is Wednesday the 15th, we'll have a definite answer. Now, Z100 to 400 lens is still listed at 16th of December at B&H. So that's all we have. There was no other updates. Seth mentioned that they're still on track, but it seems to me that it may slip as well. Who knows? But if it gets shipped on the 15th, that means that the United States will get the cameras first. Nikon Rumors also had a bit of update for NPS. Again, it doesn't look like it's an official statement, but someone who is either NPS member or from NPS gave that information. So what they say is Nikon is intending to fill all the day one NPS Z9 orders before the end of the year. Not sure if this will happen, but that is the current Nikon plan.
Yes. Now, apparently Nikon don't prioritize one level of NPS over another. In the US, you actually have tiers of NPS membership because you pay for that membership. Whereas over here in the UK, and I believe also in Europe, it's a free registration process. You don't have to pay for anything. So there are no statuses, as it were, when it comes to NPS members.
All right. And they say whatever shipping day Nikon announcement, or they still planning it before the end of the year, it means that day they will have all the cameras to the stores. The date is not the day that the cameras will ship to the stores.
That's usually the case with new releases.
That's true.
Yeah. So if our shipping day had been the 15th of December, then that would mean that they'd be arriving imminently.
Exactly.
But they're not. Lastly, Nikon will not be sending any open Z9 cameras to any stores. Now, what that means is they won't be sending any Z9s that haven't already been prepaid for. They are only fulfilling prepaid orders. So we know for a fact, obviously, we've put in our orders based on who's paid for their orders, and Nikon will fulfill that as best they can, but they won't be sending any stock to stores that don't already have open orders.
Absolutely. And it makes sense because if the figure about 40,000 pre-orders worldwide is correct, and we get about 3.5 units made per month, and then it's going to be a big allocation on first month. So maybe first month you have like 2 months of production out, so which is 7,000 cameras. That means that there will be no free stock because they can't fulfill their orders, all of their pre-orders on day one. Now, coming back to NPS, in UK, we're still not sure if NPS gets a priority, but Nikon did ask to provide NPS numbers for the people who place an orders.
Yeah, I primarily think that has to do with actually understanding where the cameras are being demanded from, if you see what I mean, how many professionals are ordering the cameras. Whether or not that will make a difference to the allocation process, we have no idea, but we have our own waiting list method. So there you go.
Does influencer qualify for NPS?
You have to pay for one first.
I'm the influencer. Give me a free camera.
Yes, no.
No. Okay. All right, let's move on to Japan. Japan officially lists the shipment date of Z9 on 24th of December. They issued an official notice stating that. What other items are going to be shipped on the same date, Becky?
They will be shipping the battery, the charger, all of the power accessories, by the looks of things, eyepieces, as well as the very important FTZ II, supposedly.
Fantastic. And now we move into China. And Nikon China says that Z9 will be shipped on 23rd of December. We also will see the shipments of 100 to 400 lens, 24 to 120 lens, and FTZ adapters. So 24 to 120 lens, official date is 16th of December. They also list 28 to 0.8 lens, the one that just came out a couple of weeks ago, the modern edition, on 10th of December. So that should be shipping now. And 23rd of December, FTZ II will also be out. All right, the next one up is more Z9 updates, but now from real professional photographers. So Brett Hill, who we talked about last week, he has some updates on Z9. Something interesting that we found that wasn't mentioned online before. Thanks, Woody, for your tip. All right, so first one up is comparison between Z9 and Z6 II.
So he says, now this is interesting. If you downsample Z9 images to the exact size of Z6 II images, then the Z9 slightly outperforms the Z6 II in ISO performance, at least in visible noise. This tells me that there really is no net advantage in ISO performance of the Z6 II over the Z9 in a field setting, and there's actually a slight benefit to shooting the Z9. This is a question that we've asked that we haven't been able to get answered until now, so I'm very glad that this is in this blog.
That's true.
And it also tells me I may have to reconsider the initial thought I had of keeping my Z6 II simply for use in high ISO situations where it would really beat my Z9.
So keep that in mind, and then we're going to read the second bit, and then we're going to talk about this. So the second bit is actually Z9 versus D6.
Yes.
What does he say? He says, okay, at least to me, this is very interesting. Again, to be clear, this means that while a D6 still wins in delivering less visible noise at high ISOs compared to downsampled Z9 images, it doesn't win by much at all, only 1/3 of a stop at a 12,800 ISO. This makes me, Brett Hill, wonder if there is really any value beyond nostalgia in keeping even my D6 for those very high ISO moments. I honestly did not expect the downsampled Z9 files to be this competitive with D6 files.
Yes. So this answers the big question for those of us who maybe aren't action photographers, but do shoot more practical situations where we are in low light. I have experienced that many times, whether it's weddings and concerts to sort of more social situations to obviously sporting events where the D6 is kind of considered the top of its class.
Absolutely. Remember when we had the conversation about downsampled files back in the day? D800 versus D700.
Yes, that's right.
It was to do with the motion blur, first of all, because a lot of people say, well, I'm taking portraits and the pictures look sharp on D700 and they're motion blurry on D800. And then we say, well, downsample it. Even if you shoot at 40s of a second, you won't notice the difference. Now, also to do with low light, people thought maybe D800 is a bit noisy, but actually once you downsample the image to D700 file, they would be about the same.
So we've got the same situation with the Z9 here, which does lead me to believe that those people who thought that the Z9 would be maybe the main camera in the Z6 or Z6 II as the keeping it just in case for low light situations doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Obviously, the Z6 and Z6 II are amazing cameras for low light. So there is no problem with keeping those.
So the ISO performance is something that people didn't really pay attention too much when testing Z9 because everyone was so excited about autofocus speed and tracking, etc., etc. But now we finally start to, to see those images, especially Z9 versus D6. This is a very important one because obviously D6 is a low light king. So Z9 getting so close to it that actually in practical use, there's very little difference. It's very important to know.
Absolutely. If you would like to have a little read of Brad Hill's blog, it is naturalart.ca, so Canada, and that's on his blog there.
All right, so next one up, we also have more shipping updates, but now on FTZ II and also 2.8 modern casing shipment. So both of them are shipping currently. On FTZ, couple of things to know. You need to make sure that your camera is fully updated to latest firmware because otherwise it won't recognize the FTZ II and it will give you an error. The second one is we have different sample variations as well. Apparently, some people report that their FTZ II is made in China and some people report that Thailand manufactured.
Interesting.
Also, one thing I found on Nikon Rumors that actually I didn't think of it personally, but it was a conversation about having a tripod mount on FTZ Mark I adapter. And one user pointed out, and it's something I didn't pay attention to, that actually the FTZ tripod mount is limited to 1.3 kilos, all right? So that's not even good enough for 70-200Z lens or 100-400 lens.
Crikey.
Because I would think that, yeah, you could use it, but then obviously the 70-200, you would probably use tripod foot instead. But you need to keep in mind that it is there, but actually, in most cases, for non lenses, not very practical. Let's move on to Z9 RAW and video codec. The mystery of Nikon high-efficiency RAW and 8K 60 frames per second has been finally solved. Company InfoPix is the company behind the RAW technology for Nikon Z9. They call it Nikkor RAW. They finally issued a press release last week saying that's us who solved the issue.
It's amazing. Nikon actually formed a strategic partnership with InfoPix in order to leverage the company's RAW compression technology. Nikkor RAW. The company claims this technology delivers the most efficient RAW files that do not compromise image integrity at all, thanks to innovative processing and coding, in their words. So InfoPix says that the full power of an image sensor is preserved while Nikkor RAW is able to reduce bandwidth, storage needs, and transfer times.
While keeping the image quality basically the same. So what they say that Nikkor RAW will be able to capture 8K up to 60 frames per second that will come by a firmware update in 2022. The reason that this compatibility wasn't available at launch might have been because InfoPix had not yet finalized implementation of the raw codec at the time of their announcements back at the end of October. But finally, last week, InfoPix confirmed that they have successfully done so. Therefore, the firmware is coming hopefully very soon.
Very cool.
All right. Well, if you would like to learn more about the Nikon RAW and 8K 60 frames per second, have a look at Chris Stewblue video as well. For us, more visual learners.
Next one up. Z9 has already received a Best Buy award from ASI in Japan.
Speaking of awards, also ZFC received a Digital Grand Prix award from FileWeb, which is also quite honorable. Couple of news on Z100-400. Mark Granger published his first hands-on review on the lens, so he said it's really good. And also, if you are in search for brochures for all the latest Nikon announcements and releases, Nikon UK actually has a page with all the brochures. So they don't publish them anymore in printed versions, but digital versions are available. So do check out description under our video below, and they all are there.
Next one up, Nikon have been selected for the highest rank, A-list, by the CDP's Climate Change Questionnaire for the 3rd consecutive year.
Okay. So this is from the news we don't understand, but Becky, could you enlighten me at least?
Yes, absolutely. Essentially, CDP are a global non-profit that drives companies and governments to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, safeguard water resources, and protect forests. They work with more than 590 institutional investors with over $110 trillion in assets. Essentially, Nikon have, I'm trying to paraphrase.
Essentially, it's good for the environment. And it's only took us 100 takes to record this segment right now. So,
essentially, the Nikon Group has contributed to building a sustainable society by positioning the realization of a decarbonized society, a resource circulating society. What are the words that I'm saying?
In a world of decarbonized society.
We're very happy that Nikon have won this award for the 3rd. That's A-list.
Well, let's move on to the news we understand. And I don't know how I'm going to edit all this, but
Nikon have won this A-list status, which essentially, as far as we can see from the article, means that they are actually doing their bit to protect the planet, which is the most important thing anyway. So well done to them.
Thank you, Nikon, for keeping us green and safe. Let's now move on to things we do understand. There's some quite fun releases that Nikon made in Japan. Well, Nikon Museum in particular, they released 2 commemorative items for F2 50th anniversary. Remember, it's happening now. So we're gonna do a live stream at some point about F2, but we still need to do F3 first. So by the end of, I think, August, we should be able to do that. But what they did release is the first one is very, very dear to me. It's
and
F2.
me.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
If you like writing instruments, it's the news for you. So they released F2 50th anniversary fountain pen, all right? This is not just a random fountain pen that you can just order for like £5 and it's made out of plastic or something. It's actually based on Sailor Professional Gear Slim fountain pen. Those are really good pens. I think they're about £150 in UK.
It is £146 sterling.
Now, if you do like a very fine writing instruments, this release is only limited to 300 units. You can order it on Nikon Direct Japanese store. Now, a lot of people having issues of getting the delivery to another country than Japan. So do have a look at it. Hopefully there are some workarounds. But I personally would like to get one of those.
Me too.
It's costs, I think, 22,000 yen, which is equivalent of about 160 British pounds. Now, another thing they released was an F2 coffee mug.
Yeah, it's a Nikon Museum commemorative F2 coffee mug. This one is slightly more reasonably priced at about £15 in the UK or 2,000 yen. The mug is limited to 500 units and will be sold for the first time at the museum shop and on Nikon Direct. It's actually got 2 sides. It's the 100th anniversary of the Micron binoculars and then the F2 on the other side.
So first Micron binocular was released in 1921. That's pretty cool. Good to know. Now, there's also a bonus release, okay? So there was a 3rd item, but they say 2 because the 3rd one is only limited to Japan. So if you are in Japan, I would definitely look into that. The 3rd release is aimed at actually Nikon F5 and not F2 because F5 also has 25th anniversary coming up. It's a hard case that looks like a proper hard case for Nikon long lenses, but this one can hold F5 inside. This one is only limited to Japan, unfortunately, I guess due to its size and weight. It's priced at 20,000 yen.
Which is £130.
It's not bad. So if you definitely want one, well, you have to be in Japan to get it.
Another release, but not Nikon related this time, is the TT Artisan 23mm f1.4 APS-C mirrorless lens for the Z mount. It's officially available and it's just $99.
All right, so it's $99 and it's 1.4 lens, which is surprisingly. But actually, if you look at the images, it doesn't look particularly well made. So hence the price. I guess, again, it's probably a nice, fun little lens. So if you have a budget of $99, you would just play around. It's definitely worth considering. Let's move on to review section. We have one review from F-Stoppers on Nikon Z9. Overall, they like it, but also they put things that they didn't like for the things they wanted to be improved with Nikon Z9.
Well, let's go through them because they're quite interesting to see what they thought should be improved.
Exactly. So the first one says EVF doesn't have the highest resolution and frame rate available. For all those points that we're going to read, I definitely recommend F-Stoppers to read Tom Hogan article debunking those issues. Yes, EVF is not the highest resolution, but it's very high refresh rate. Coming back to the cameras that have a higher resolution EVF, they can't work at very high frame rate. So when you go to sports mode or effectively high frame rate mode, the EVF effectively reduces the resolution. Again, for the camera that aimed for action and sports photographers, I don't think it's an issue.
Yes, they say that they do miss a dedicated PASM manual dial.
Yes, laughing at D5 and D6 users who never had that.
Yeah.
So again, I guess if you're coming from Z6 and Z7 cameras, that makes the case. If you're a professional photographer who use D5 and D6 cameras, those cameras never had those modes, or even D850.
Yeah, I know. I was confused as to why they brought that up. They also were upset about the possibility to fine-tune the AF system, which we have spoken about many, many times on the stream and on the channel in general. You don't actually need to AF fine-tune Z lenses. Obviously, the option is there if you've got F-mount lenses, but you're focusing directly on the sensor. So the only reason you would need to fine-tune your AF lenses is if there's something out of calibration with the lens itself. It won't be down to the camera.
Absolutely. The next one up is joystick is rather slow for moving the AF points. I didn't find this at all, personally. You also can use a touchscreen as well. From our use, from that short time that we had with the camera, I don't think it was an issue.
I didn't notice it, but maybe they had a pre-release model that didn't have fast response time. We're not entirely sure why that would be an issue. The other one was that custom buttons next to the lens are not well placed for vertical shooting. So again, I didn't experience that. But
I personally think that it's not the function button, the F3 button, which is at the bottom, is the only one that's supposed to be available for the grip users. And the F1 and F2, they're not designed per design to be accessible from their point of view. Again, so that list of things to be improved, I did find nonsensical. Is not to criticize F-Stoppers in any way.
It almost feels like they couldn't be too enthusiastic about it, so they had to find things not to like, but that they weren't actually things that were relevant to not like.
It is very strange to me that we do like when the cameras are criticized for the things they're supposed to be criticized for, but not having, let's say, PASM dial, which none of the professional Nikon DSLRs had to start with. It's a bit of an overstatement, I would say.
But every opinion is an opinion. But if you would like to read the full article, we will include the link below so you can make of it what you will. For our weekend read and watch segment, we've got the best Nikon Z9 video ever. This is by Ryan Troy. He very kindly has tagged us in this. He said, he tagged Grazer Westminster and said, "This changed my opinion."
Yes, so it's a video about our video. And he looks at it and he said, okay, finally, I've looked at it and now I'm excited. And if we can make one person excited, then I think
we're happy.
We're happy, yeah, because we feel that the work we put in our videos at least pay off, at least for one person.
Exactly. We have also recorded a podcast with Paul Wilkinson, so please do check that out. We will include the link below. It will probably go out around the same time as this one. So if you listen to podcasts or you're listening on the podcast platform, you will be able to find Paul's podcast there with us on it this time.
Absolutely. And if you haven't seen the Grace Christmas Lights live stream last week, do check it out. We went to Somerset House and we walked all the way to Trafalgar Square, streaming live on iPhone and taking pictures.
Yes, it was very interesting. But it was really nice. So if you haven't yet gotten yourself in the festive mood, then it's certainly one way to do it.
Absolutely. And there's also a special announcement. Our last live stream of this year will be aired this Friday at 2:15 British Standard Time.
Yes.
So do come and join us for the festive cheer.
We will be wearing silly Christmas jumpers, and we would ask that you will also be wearing a silly Christmas jumper.
Absolutely. You're right. This is the time of the year.
Thank you very much for watching and or listening. Please do give us a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube, or if you're listening on a podcast platform, a follow, perhaps even a review would be most appreciated.
Absolutely. You can also find us on the Instagrams of the world, and Becky is there.
Yes, I'm there as Rebecca_Danesi, and you are
Konstantin Kochkin. We will see you soon.
Thank you very much for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye.